Simon & Schuster Audio presents Star Trek: The Last Roundup by Christy Golden. Read by David Kay.
It was a dead world. The planet known in Federation records as Pollux Ara-4 sported not so much as a microbe, but within its lifeless, rocky exterior had once flowed a rich vein of what was then one of the most precious substances in the universe, dilithium. It was this deposit that had led Earth almost 150 years ago to establish a colony in order to mine the mineral. Once again, Pollux Ara-4 was lifeless, save for the 27 souls that stood safely encased in environmental suits in its still radioactive exterior. Captain James Tiberius Kirk was one of the 27. The others were Starfleet cadets, and they were quieter than he had ever heard them. Kirk wasn't surprised. Standing at the site of a great tragedy had that effect. Towering above them were the ruins of what had once been a colony of vital importance to a pre-Federation Earth. There remained only sharp shards of metal and other materials, warped, melted, twisted, and pulverized. The wide-eyed solemnity he saw in the cadets' faces, a mixture of a variety of species that would have stunned those who had died here a century ago, made him nod slightly in approval. Good kids, all of them, he thought. Time for the pop quiz.
Cadet Singh, tell me about Commander Lowe, if you please.
Light glimmered on Indira Singh's protective faceplate.
Sir, Commander Sabra Lowe led the mining colony here in the middle part of the 22nd century. It was a state-of-the-art colony that turned out swift production of a very pure form of dilithium, almost 92% pure.
Very good. You've just made an excellent start on your final.
A chorus of protest rose as the students realized that Kirk was apparently springing at least part of the final exam of his Starfleet Academy course, Command Decisions and Their Consequences. Kirk held up a hand to still them.
Now, tell me, what happened here a few years later?
Out of the corner of his eye, he saw Cadet Scally Jixili raise her long, slender arm, but he ignored her.
Cadet Brown.
Sir, Commander Lowe received advance warning of an attack. Romulans, then a relatively unknown species, were approaching. Their goal was to take over the colony in order to harvest the dilithium, develop warp drive, and create more ships to use against Earth.
Very good, Mr. Brown. Cadet Tapran, pick up the narrative from this point.
Cadet Scally was now actually stopping in impatience. Kirk had once tried to curb these physical displays of her irritation, but it was impossible. It was simply a part of who she was, a Huani. Tapran, a coolly beautiful young Vulcan female, predictably showed no emotion as she obeyed Kirk's request.
There was insufficient time for Earth to send defense vessels. The colony had no weapons other than approximately 200 handheld phase guns and 4,827 detonation devices.
Very good. Cadet Laskus, continue.
Laska's sharp-toothed muzzle opened and his thick, green, forked tongue fluttered.
Commander Lowe, choice had none. Selected she to colony destroy. Detonation devices all deployed at time same. Not Romulan hands fall into precious dilithium at time of war when vulnerable Earth was. Died 8 and 40 and 100 males and females by order of Commander Lowe.
Most of that is correct, but there's something very wrong with that answer. Anybody know what?
This time not even Scally's hand was up. Her pale purple face was screwed up in frustration. Kirk didn't enlighten them at once. He began to walk around the area, carefully.
We're in a place of death, cadets. A place where lives were sacrificed in order to preserve noble ideals. Imagine yourself as commander of a colony of over 100 people. People who look to you to keep them safe, their family safe. and then you hear from one of your scouts, who was attacked and killed shortly after he sends the message, that Romulans are on the way. You know what they want, and you know their tactics. They've never left anyone alive before, but they've never wanted anything from an outpost before. They might take you prisoner. They might agree to let you go. You just don't know.
The cadet stared at him blankly. Kirk sighed. Maybe they were just too young to comprehend this.
Cadet Laska's answer was factually correct, but you've got to consider things like hunches, intuitions, gut feelings. Of course, Commander Lowe had to destroy the colony and sacrifice every one of those 148 men and women, didn't she? She couldn't risk having that much dilithium fall into Romulan hands at that crucial juncture. It's in all the textbooks, so it must have been obvious, an easy choice. But just because these people died over a century past doesn't mean we should let their sacrifice count for nothing. There's a quote from an ancient book on my world that says, "Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends." I disagree. How much nobler and harder is it to die for a stranger? Commander Sabra Lowe died for people she'd never met, and she made that choice freely. Now that, cadets, is a command decision, and this is its consequence. Both the ruins of Polyxara 4 and the fact that you and I are able to stand here today alive, free, and members of a federation that values freedom and justice.
To his deep satisfaction, he saw the flickering of understanding pass across some of the painfully youthful faces. Not surprisingly, tears were flowing down Cadet Scully's purple face. The Huani had only recently joined the Federation. Kirk had never seen such an emotional race before. Scully was the very first of her species to be accepted at Starfleet Academy and hoped to become an ambassador. He waited a moment longer, then spoke.
We have 20 minutes before we return to the ship. I suggest you take the time to wander the colony and get to know it for yourself. Cadets, dismissed.
While it was obvious that the students were thrilled to be able to attend his class, Kirk knew that they were more interested in seeing him than what he was saying. But talking about major command decisions of the past few centuries, including a few historical ones he himself had made, had only served to remind him that all he was doing was talking. He was horribly bored and itching to get out and do something, which was one reason he had called in a few favors in order to authorize this field trip to a place that was still largely off-limits. As the students departed, he welcomed the solitude, for he, too, wanted a chance to soak up the atmosphere.
Captain Kirk.
It was, of course, Scully. She was nearly as tall as he was, though far more slender of build than most humanoids. Her large ears were flattened against her head by the suit's headpiece and gave her a particularly mournful look. Her large eyes still brimmed with tears.
Permission to speak freely, Cadet?
Scully swallowed hard.
Captain, do you think Commander Lowe and the others were afraid?
You heard the message they sent back to Starfleet before Lowe destroyed the colony. What do you think?
Scully tilted her head.
She did not sound afraid.
Kirk raised an eyebrow.
You still have much to learn about humans, Scully. To take that responsibility, to end your own life and that of so many others, you can't do it without wondering, without second-guessing yourself, without being afraid.
But her voice was so calm.
Scully, if you want to become an ambassador, one thing you'll need to learn is that you don't have to surrender to your emotions all the time.
Scully looked at him with a mixture of awe and disbelief.
So I have heard. But, Captain, I must confess that that seems impossible to me.
It certainly doesn't seem to come easily to your people, but it can be learned.
Suddenly, to his keen embarrassment, she threw her arms around him and hugged him tightly, then hugged herself and whirled around a few times.
I'll learn from you, Captain. You're my personal advisor. There was such a long waiting list for you, but because I'm the first Huani to attend the academy, they made a special exception for me and moved me right to the top of the line. Oh, imagine what they'll think back on Huan. Little Scully, who has the great, famous Captain James T. Kirk as her advisor.
As she gazed at him with shining eyes, Kirk wondered how the hell he was going to get out of this one. The transport vessel that had been used for the field trip to Pollux Aura 4 was small, not sufficiently large for Kirk to feel truly away from his charges. Alone in his cramped quarters, he tapped the computer. The image of a beautiful Native American woman appeared on the screen. Admiral Laura Standing Crane's dark brown eyes sparkled as she recognized her old friend.
Hello, Jim. Somehow I figured I'd hear from you.
How long have you known Laura?
She raised a raven eyebrow.
I was the one who authorized it. Scully's a good kid, Jim, and you know how important it is to make new Federation members feel welcome at all levels in Starfleet. Who better than the great Captain James T. Kirk to help her learn how to get along with humans?
I think if I hear the great Captain James T. Kirk one more time, I'm going to get myself surgically altered again and go hide out on Vulcan.
You may have passed for a Romulan once, but the Vulcans would spot you in a moment. How did the field trip go?
Laura, not even freshman cadets can stand on Pollux Aura 4 and not think of it. Thanks for authorizing it.
She nodded.
Of course. You know you've got a waiting list a kilometer long for next semester's class. What are you going to do with your summer?
Kirk frowned.
Hadn't thought about it. Don't suppose that there's anything going on at Starfleet Command that a living legend could help with?
Jim, take a little time and rest on your laurels. I know you're chafing, but there's really nothing here for you now. Unless you want to help Spock negotiate with the Klingons.
He held up both hands in a back-off gesture.
While I respect Chancellor Ozitborg greatly, I think I've had enough of the Klingons to last me for the rest of my life.
Actually, Jim, you might be interested in this, since Scully's now your pet project. The inhabitants of Falor, a planet in a solar system right next door to Huon's system, are now petitioning to join the Federation. We've just played host to a very large delegation of Falorians, and it has been a time, I'll tell you.
Anything like the Huani?
Yes and no. The Falorians were clearly once members of the same species. Similar in appearance, but much stockier, less ethereal. And they're much more controlled than the Huani. But they have an insatiable curiosity. They pelted us with more questions than a normal 5-year-old would. They've asked to see every single starbase, visit every single member planet, tour as many starships as are available. Frankly, Jim, we're getting overwhelmed. We found one of them in the kitchens before last night's farewell banquet. He'd almost gotten stuck inside a cabinet and was meticulously examining and sampling every single spice we had. Oh, Jim, it's good to see you.
So maybe I can purchase the lovely lady a drink at Gaston's when I return.
Maybe the lovely lady will take you up on that when she can spare a moment. Enjoy the rest of the trip, and you be nice to Scully.
She was still smiling when her image disappeared. Kirk leaned back in his chair and stretched. He eyed what he had brought for entertainment, old copies of fine books he'd read several times, a tattered deck of cards over which he, McCoy, and Scotty, the only other members of his old senior staff who enjoyed gambling, had spent many an hour. He had a message. Perhaps Laura had found that moment. He thumbed the control and spoke before the image appeared.
Changed your mind about that drink?
But on screen was the stern, haughty visage of Chancellor Azadbur of the Klingon High Council.
Captain?
Kirk smiled.
Forgive me, Chancellor, I was expecting someone else. How are the negotiations coming?
Very well indeed. Your friend Spock has a gift for bringing together at a table many who might otherwise prefer a fight.
I confess I expected no less. Now, Chancellor, what can I do for you?
It is not what you can do for me, Captain Kirk. It is what I am planning on doing for you. You saved many lives a few months ago. I owe you an honor debt, and Klingons always repay honor debts. I'm invoking the Dis-Jage.
The computer offered as the proper translation, the year and the day. Kirk was baffled as to what it really meant. Azadbur's eyes were bright and her color was high. Clearly, what she had just said meant a great deal to her.
Chancellor, what I did freely. There is no honor debt between us. There's no need for the year and the day.
For a long, very bad moment, Kirk worried that Azadbur would try to leap for his throat through the screen. Then, oddly, she smiled, showing sharp teeth.
As you wish, Captain Kirk.
As far as you are concerned, then there shall be no the year and the day.
As her image blipped out, Kirk blew out a breath. The Chancellor of the Klingon High Council wanted him to accept an honor debt. Well, that was something you didn't see every day. He congratulated himself for getting off so easily. Azabor stared at the dark screen after the image of Kirk had disappeared, playing a little game with herself. She wanted to see how long it would take before her right hand, Brigadier Kurla, exploded in fury. It took 3 seconds before Kurla stamped about the small room.
Arrogant human Patak. He spurned the discharge.
Azabor permitted herself a slight smile.
Patience, my old friend. He is only human after all. He could not possibly understand the honor I offered him. Besides, one cannot decline such a thing. I've sworn the oath of discharge. No one can forswear me.
Azabor knew that Kirk was a good person. He'd overcome his own prejudices to save people he had very good cause to regard as enemies. It was a misunderstanding and not an insult.
Brigadier Kurla, I will keep my word, and Kirk will think he has disentangled himself from us. But I want you to contact the Kurator. I have a mission for her captain.
Commander Uhura contorted her beautiful dark face into a snarl and spat forth a string of harsh-sounding words. Fiercely, she brandished her bat'leth, then leaped forward. Blood-red robes trimmed in black fur swirled around her.
Son of a black-hearted dog, this I offer to thee, I offer to thy heart.
A mere meter away, Karglok, clad in black and silver armor, sprang forward to meet his adversary.
It is you who shall board the barge of the dead, in dishonor so great that none shall remember your name.
As their bat'leths clashed, Uhura felt the wind rush past her face as she narrowly avoided the curving blade. She charged Karglok, and he fell beneath her. His weapon knocked from his hands. Uhura brought the bat'leth down and pressed it against his throat. Slowly, she removed the deadly blade, and before she knew it, she was caught up in his arms, his sharp-toothed mouth pressed down on hers.
Hey, Karglak, watch with the teeth.
Then Uhura clambered off the most famous opera singer ever to have graced the Klingon homeworld of Konos. Karglak leapt to his feet, put his hand on his heart, and executed a bow.
That was marvelous. Marvelous. I was so caught up in the drama, I was, how do you put it, carried away.
She smiled at him. At least he'd agreed to start using a mouthwash during their up-close and personal duets.
It's all right, Karglok. I'll take it as a compliment.
This Klingon operetta would be performed in conjunction with a medley of songs that represented the finest of Earth's musical traditions, including the famous aria, First Contact, First Touch, from the opera Songs from Space and Time, widely regarded as Earth's finest musical piece since humans first made contact with other species. Despite the bruises, scrapes, and occasional cuts Uhura was forced to endure as part of this historic extravaganza, she had to confess she was enjoying herself hugely. She had been captivated by Klingon opera. What power it had, what grand, sweeping stories it told. When she approached Spock with the concept of a musical exchange, an evening of Klingon opera and human song, he'd seemed surprised by the idea. It had taken her a week or two, but she finally realized that it had been Spock's idea all along. The crafty Vulcan had deliberately exposed her to the music, knowing she wouldn't be able to resist wanting to perform it. She mopped her soaking brow and gulped water with lemon while the director gave them notes.
Commander Uhura, you are doing a fine job with the range of the piece, but I would ask you to re-examine your Klingon. The R comes from the back of the throat, not from the tip of the tongue. You show disrespect for the composer's vision.
Uhura sighed.
I have no desire to permanently ruin my voice for one evening's performance. If I can approximate the sound well enough to be understood, what's the problem?
The calm, cool voice of Captain Spock came from the back of the room.
Commander and Director, please, we have no wish to start a new war on the eve of peace. This was meant to bring two races together with a love of music, not divide them by the finer details. But I came here to speak with Commander Uhura. Commander, if you please.
Uhura stepped off the stage and followed Spock up a ways toward the end of the hall.
How are the rehearsals progressing? Very well, actually. Karglok is surprisingly easy to work with.
Spock noticed a swelling on her lip.
You are injured.
Uhura laughed a little.
Seems Karglok got a little carried away during our duet.
I would be mindful, Commander. It is my understanding that biting, especially around the mouth and face, is part of a Klingon mating ritual.
Uhura turned to look back at the stage. Karglok was watching them, and as she looked at him, he smiled and waved a little. Uhura's eyes widened in dismay.
Uh-oh.
The San Francisco skyline was beautiful at night, and Kirk stood for a while simply gazing at it. He was completely, utterly, and thoroughly bored. He had returned to Earth 2 days ago and had bid an unfortunately temporary farewell to a clingy Scully. Standing Crane, as she had warned, was far too busy even for a quick drink. Spock, Uhura, and McCoy, of course, were so deeply entangled in the peace negotiations that they could barely spare a moment to chat. Kirk had messages into both Chekhov and Scotty, but so far they hadn't responded. Who could it be at his door at this hour? It was after midnight.
Come in.
Two handsome blond men stood in the doorframe. One was in his mid-30s, well-built and salted-looking. The other, who hung back a little, was younger and slighter. The older one of them smiled. He was Kirk's nephew, Alexander.
Alex! Julius! Come in, come in! Is it really you?
They stepped inside. A long, uncomfortable moment ensued as the three men regarded one another. Had they been the youngsters Kirk remembered, he'd have known what to do, fold them into a big, avuncular hug. But they were men, not boys, and it had been so long since he'd seen them. It was Alex who broke the ice by suddenly laughing and embracing his uncle. The younger nephew, Julius, forestalled an embrace by extending his hand, smiling stiffly. Kirk grasped the hand.
You look good, both of you. I saw your brother just recently.
Peter, the eldest son of Kirk's late beloved brother Sam, was active in Starfleet Diplomatic Corps. He and Kirk managed to grab a few moments for a cup of coffee together before their respective duties had called them away. Julius didn't react, but Alex brightened visibly.
Peter, how is he? We don't hear from him much. He's doing very well. Quite active in the peace negotiations. Have a seat, both of you.
Kirk sat down in a chair opposite Alex and Julius.
I must confess, I'm quite surprised to see you two, especially at this hour.
Alex ran a hand through his thick, fair hair and laughed uneasily.
For months I've rehearsed this, and now that I'm here, it's all gone right out of my head. We're all family here, Alex.
Alex took a deep breath, then looked at his uncle.
We didn't see much of you after Mom and Dad died, and I know that it wasn't your fault. I mean, you were a captain of a starship, and they don't let you take families with you on those. And we stayed with the Pearsons on Rigel 6.
Kirk regarded his nephew steadily.
I know all this, Alex. Why are you mentioning it now?
Julius exploded with anger.
Because the Pearsons treated us like cattle, and we've been on our own for the last several years, something you might have known if you'd bothered.
Alex's mild face flushed. He interrupted.
Julius.
At once, his younger brother subsided. Kirk was immediately attentive.
Alex, were you and Julius abused in any way? Oh, no, Uncle Kirk, nothing like that, but it was clear that we weren't wanted. So when I was 20, I just took Julius with me and left. We've been doing a lot of traveling, and over the years we realized what we really wanted, a home.
Guilt warred with indignation within Kirk. He'd sent a message on each of their birthdays, every year, along with what he had hoped were suitable gifts. Every time he'd been near Rigel 6, which wasn't often, he'd arranged to visit them. He had adored his big brother, George Samuel Kirk, but even they had fallen out of touch once they had reached adulthood. The Kirks just weren't a close-knit family. But this revelation about the Pearsons disturbed him greatly.
I didn't know that you weren't happy. You have a home here, with me, if you want it.
Alex forced a laugh.
It's all right, Uncle Jim. We don't want to move in. We want our own home. And we've met with many others who share our vision. We want to found a colony.
Kirk thought he now understood. They wanted him to pull some strings and find them a suitable place. Clearly, they, too, thought of him not as a person, not as Uncle Jim, but as the great Captain James T. Kirk.
I'll see what I can do, but Starfleet is not going to be able to spare a lot of people to help you find a place.
Alex shook his head.
No, you've got it all wrong. We've found a planet already in the Basar system. Very remote, freely donated as a goodwill gesture by a race that is negotiating with the Federation for admittance. I call it Sanctuary. Uncle Jim, we're going to make it our own little corner of paradise. Here's a list of those who've already agreed to go.
Alex handed Kirk a pad, and Kirk quickly scanned the names. The list of scientists and engineers was lengthy, and most of them were renowned for their cutting-edge discoveries and developments. Whatever else this colony might be, it would certainly be very high-tech.
Alex, I'm impressed. You seem to have the cream of the crop here. Who's donating this planet? Florians.
Kirk recognized the name.
A friend of mine greeted their diplomatic delegation. Very friendly, very curious. Is that correct? Yes, Uncle Jim. It's obvious that they're hoping to win favor for their admittance by letting us have the colony. They've never had any desire to colonize the planet themselves. It works out to be a good thing for everyone involved. How did you manage to snag this gem of a world?
Alex turned to regard his brother with affection.
It's all thanks to Julius. He's been the one out there talking to all kinds of alien races to find us our sanctuary.
Kirk tried not to sound surprised.
How did you manage it, Julius?
Julius's jaw tensed almost imperceptibly.
Uncle Jim, as Alex said, we were able to contact the Florians at the right time when they were trying to look good to the Federation. It sounds to me as if you're both very lucky. Tell me a little more about your vision, Alex. Well, you've seen the list I gave you, Uncle Jim. All individualists and dreamers who can back up their dreams with concrete realities. But we don't want to just hand over the results of our hard work to someone else. We'll share everything for the betterment of all peace-loving species. We're taking as our inspiration the Amish and the Quakers. They've made it through centuries, still holding on to their ideals of nonviolence and peace. So can we.
Kirk smiled.
The Amish don't exactly approve of cutting-edge technology. That's true, Uncle Jim, but we don't have to be Amish to respect them and learn from their wisdom.
Kirk looked at his two nephews for a long moment.
Your father would be so proud. I wish you both all the luck in the universe.
Alex exchanged an amused glance with Julius.
Uncle Jim, we didn't come all this way and show up at your door at midnight just to tell you about our colony. We came to ask you to come with us. Out of the question, Alex. I can't just go galloping across the galaxy as if I were your age again.
Alex seemed genuinely puzzled by his uncle's abrupt refusal.
You could help us so much. You have so many years of experience. Experience in captaining a starship, yes. But what could I possibly do? You could give me excellent advice, and you could help Julius with the Florians.
Julius leaned forward, his body taut with emotion.
What are you doing right now, Uncle Jim? Don't you think we've been keeping tabs on you? Julius, I can understand...
Julius interrupted his uncle.
You have no idea what we've been through the last few years. The begging and pleading Alex has had to do, the crawling through mud and getting sick and being literally scared for my life to get this thing to fly. We've got names, we've got backing, we've got a beautiful, unspoiled world owned by friendly aliens, and the last piece of the puzzle is you. You're hanging around Starfleet hoping they'll toss you a bone. Look us in the eye and tell us that you're happy where you are.
teaching 18-year-olds ancient history when you could be part of an experiment working alongside your own blood to bring about things that can change the universe.
Kirk had gone from startled to amused to angry, but he replied with coolness.
It's been good seeing you both. I wish you luck with Sanctuary.
For a moment, Julius stared. Then he got up.
Oh, I can't believe it! Oh, the hell with it. And the hell with you, Captain.
He strode toward the door without a backward glance. Alex was still seated on the couch.
I apologize for Julius, Uncle Jim. We really have been through a lot in getting this colony pulled together, and it would have been the jewel in the crown if you could have been part of it. I figured you were pretty well entrenched in whatever it was you were doing.
He rose and smiled awkwardly.
Admiral Karen Berg is one of our sponsors. She'll be able to contact us if you change your mind.
Alex seemed about to say something, then he just smiled, squeezed Kirk's shoulder one last time, turned, and followed his brother into the night. It was still dark out when his door chimed. Kirk bolted upright. Maybe it was Julius and Alex back to try to convince him again. For some reason, he was pleased at the prospect. He fumbled for a robe, hastily sashed it closed, then stumbled into the living room. He glanced up to see who it was. It was not even anyone he had any desire to see. Steeling himself, he opened the door.
Good morning, Scully.
She stood in the doorway with a big grin on her lively face, then scampered inside. She carried a large basket, which she summarily plopped down on the kitchen table.
Good morning, Captain Kirk. I brought us breakfast before our hike.
Kirk sighed.
Cadet Scully, all questions of impropriety aside, what are you doing here at 5:30 in the morning? Didn't you think that perhaps I might have my own plans about how I wanted to spend my day?
Do you have other plans, Captain?
No, but that's not the point. Why are you here?
You're my personal advisor. Now that I have you all to myself, I have so many questions.
Kirk ran a hand through his hair.
Scully, that's during the semester.
Her ears sagged slightly and drooped like dying flowers down either side of her head.
You don't want to see me. Oh, I understand. I'm sorry. I'll go now.
He caught her by her long arm as she headed for the door, tears brimming in her enormous eyes.
It's not that. It's just, there are certain protocols and etiquette we have in place that you'll need to familiarize yourself with. One of them is cadets don't interact with faculty members except during the school year. But, tell you what, since you went to all the trouble to make us breakfast, we'll eat, talk, then say goodbye, and I'll see you in September when the semester starts.
Her smile lit up her face.
That sounds great, Captain.
It was a long breakfast. Scully talked incessantly, pummeling Kirk with questions as the sun rose. Finally, after every last crumb had been devoured, Scully sadly slid off the chair and packed up the basket. The door had scarcely closed behind her when Kirk was at his computer.
Computer, contact and leave a message for Admiral Karen Berg. Please inform her that Jim Kirk needs to contact his nephews as soon as possible.
Shortly after Kirk had showered and shaved, Alex contacted him. His nephew managed to look both wary and hopeful at the same time.
Got your message, Uncle Jim. What's going on?
Kirk smiled.
You and Julius were right. I'm not ready to make a long-term commitment right now, but is the offer still open for me to come for a few months?
Alex's face split into an enormous grin.
You bet, Uncle Jim. Stay as short or long a time as you want. I'm sure, though, once you're there, you'll never want to leave.
Kirk didn't share Alex's certainty, but he did know one thing. He needed to be out there, doing something.
And, Alex, you've got a great list of people, but you could probably stand to use a few old hands. Mind if I bring along some friends?
Oh, absolutely not. Any friend of our Uncle Jim is a friend of Sanctuary.
Commander Pavel Chekhov was going mad at Starbase 14, sitting on his rear and twiddling his thumbs when he knew that he was ready for a captaincy. His last job as first officer of the Reliant had been a trying one. He distinguished himself very well since, but the thought of going back to a similar position when his old helms buddy, Sulu, had been given the Excelsior felt to him like he was giving up. But with all the hullabaloo going on with the Klingons, there weren't going to be many changes in the upper ranks. Chekhov leaned back in his chair and laced his fingers at the back of his neck. If only he had some kind of sign. His computer indicating that he had a message. Chekhov tapped it. Captain. On the view screen was an image of Captain Kirk.
Hello, Mr. Chekhov. How are you doing? I thought you'd have a command of your own by this time.
Strangely enough, Captain, Starfleet doesn't seem to share your opinion. How is your class going?
Over and done with, as is my tenure at the Academy. I've got a proposition to make, if you're in a position to think it over.
Chekhov felt his mouth curve into a smile. Anything Jim Kirk was going to get him into was going to be exciting, and he could use some excitement about now.
I'm all ears, Captain.
In his mind's eye, Chekhov could picture Spock's reaction to the colorful phrase. Ah, those were the good old days. Commander Montgomery Scott was freezing his rear off. It had been decades since he'd been home to Bonnie, Scotland. While for the first few weeks it had been a true delight, he was forced to admit that he'd forgotten just how cold, wet, and, if one were to be honest, miserable the place could get. That morning when he got up, the rain was pounding on the roof and lashing at the windows. Later, as he turned to check on the kettle, out of the corner of his eye he saw a green light flashing. It was the computer alerting him that he had received a message. After the Starfleet insignia filled the screen, a familiar visage took its place. Scott was delighted to see it was Captain Kirk.
Hello, Scotty. I don't know how well retirement is treating you, but if you're anything like me, you're bored silly. So I've got a proposition for you. My nephews Alexander and Julius are getting ready to depart for a planet they call Sanctuary to found a new colony. It's going to be a site where cutting-edge technology is going to be developed. Its mission is completely one of peace.
Kirk leaned forward.
Think of it, Scotty. All this new technology, and you'll get to be an intrinsic part of its development. You'll have a chance to work with some of the most famous people in the galaxy. Let me know if you're interested. Kirk out.
Scott looked out the window again at the storm that continued to rage and chuckled.
Hell with this place.
A scant 3 weeks later, Kirk met all the future colonists for a pre-departure dinner at a banquet hall in one of San Francisco's finest hotels. He was mildly amused at how easy it had been to talk Scotty and Chekhov into coming. They must be itching for action, just as he was. The colonists seemed all of a type to him, regardless of gender or species. Young, eager, bright-eyed, and oh, so very sincere. It was a petty thought, but he figured that a few weeks on an alien world they'd have to build from scratch would take some of the shine off of them. From behind him, a too familiar voice called out.
Captain!
He should have seen Cadet Scully's bone-crushing hug coming, but he didn't, and all the air rushed out of his lungs. She let him go and jumped up and down, her large ears flapping excitedly.
It was kind of you to come to see me off, Scully.
She laughed.
I'm not here to see you off, Captain. I'm here to join the colony.
He groped for words.
Scully, you're putting your whole future at risk. You want to be an ambassador. You'll get so much out of Starfleet Academy that...
I can always re-enroll later. When I learned that you weren't going to be teaching next semester, I got to thinking, well, Scully, why don't you go along with the colony? For one thing, Captain, you're getting older, and who knows how much longer you'll be around for me to learn from.
Thank you, Scully. I feel so much better now.
She beamed, clearly not recognizing sarcasm.
And second, what a unique chance to really learn from and bond with such a variety of people. Finally, heck, it's in my own star system. I'll get a chance to meet a Felorian.
You're in the same star system and you've never met a Felorian?
Never. We're a bit distant. The Huani and the Felorians.
Kirk was now completely alert. Were there hostilities between your people in the past?
Oh, no. Neither of us is an aggressive people. There was contact many centuries ago. We developed on the same world, my world. But the Felorians wanted their own planet. So they left, went to another hospitable planet the next system over, and became Felorians. As I understand it, everyone was pretty annoyed with everyone else, so there followed a custom of non-contact. Now that we have applied to the Federation, and they are considering it too, we'll have something to talk about.
The buzz of conversation in the hall quieted as Alexander stood behind a podium at the front of the room while Julius hung back, off to the side. Alexander almost glowed.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for your faith in Project Sanctuary. This has been a dream that my brother Julius Kirk and I have shared for many years. In approximately 2 weeks, we will arrive on the prettiest planet I think I've ever laid eyes on. Nature and technology do not have to be opposed. We will use our own skills and technology to bring forth a society that exemplifies the best the civilized worlds have to offer. And before we sit down for dinner, there is someone I particularly like to thank. I'd like to introduce you to my uncle, James T. Kirk. Most of you have heard of him. I'm delighted to say that he will be joining us for at least a few months. Let's see what we can do to convince him to stay longer, shall we?
Kirk smiled graciously, waved a bit. Damn, more living legend nonsense. He was beginning to regret this. He had a feeling he was in for a long several months. The next morning, after the Mayflower 2 left space dock, it settled into a steady warp 5 and soon left the Sol system behind. Shortly afterward, a cloaked Klingon bird of prey, careful to keep its presence undetected, began to follow. Kirk hadn't been aboard for 15 minutes when the trouble started. He, Scott, and Chekhov were unpacking in the cramped quarters that would serve as home for the duration of the trip. There was much joking and bumping of elbows. They left the door open, and at one point Scott was looking down the corridor.
Ah, looks like there's someone coming to see us.
Kirk's head came up. Female?
Aye.
Kirk swore under his breath. Would Scully never leave him alone? But the female who appeared just outside the doorway was human. Her frame was lean and wiry. She stuck out a calloused hand.
Hey, name's Kate Gallagher.
Kirk shook the proffered hand.
I'm Jim Kirk. Yeah, I know. Looks like you're here after all. Nice to meet.
Gallagher broke off in mid-sentence, staring past Kirk at the half-unpacked suitcase on the cot. She pointed at a phaser.
We don't allow weapons. I'm surprised you were able to smuggle it aboard.
Kirk bridled at the implication that he had sneaked the weapon on.
Alex knows I have it. He gave us special permission.
The ship, of course, had ample defense technology. But Alex had made it clear that to arrive in a place called Sanctuary, bristling with tools of violence, would only send the wrong message to the Felorians. He had relented, very reluctantly, for the 3 Starfleet men, only because Kirk had told him that he and his 2 friends would either have handheld phasers, or they wouldn't come. Gallagher's eyes went hard and flinty.
We don't need weapons where we're going. Biggest predator there is a Mionlock. It's about the size of a coyote and very shy.
Then Gallagher pointed at something furry and plaid in Scott's bag.
Oh my God, is that fur? Aye, that's rabbit's fur. It's a sporan. It's been passed down in my family for almost 200 years. It's part of my formal dress uniform.
Kate crossed her hands over her chest in a defensive posture.
You know, I was going to give you guys the benefit of the doubt, but you bring weapons, dead animals. I just don't know.
She turned and stalked out. Kirk stared after her, hardly believing the whirlwind of rudeness and aggression that had just swept through the tiny cabin. Scott shook his head.
Ah, that's Kate then, is it? Great lover of peace, that one. And beasties. I remember reading her bio. She's devoted to figuring out ways to protect endangered species. But I tell you, Captain, this wave bunny would have been dead a long time ago, natural causes. Don't let it get to you, Scotty. I'm sure that once we get to know these people, it'll all work out.
Of course, he was sure of nothing of the sort. During the trip, the old Enterprise crew members did indeed get to know some of the colonists. A few seemed approachable. Dr. Leah Cohen, an oceanographer, Alice Harper, a linguist and communications expert, and the head geologist Mark Vita. Others seemed to take an instant and permanent dislike to the three Starfleet officers. The only exceptions were, of course, Scully, who ambushed Kirk for chats repeatedly, and Alex. When Alex was with Kirk, the others all relaxed and risked friendly smiles and hellos. They followed his lead almost like dogs awaiting commands from their master. But among this group of peace-loving scientists and engineers, Starfleet's comparatively martial presence just wasn't welcome. The enormous transport that was the Mayflower 2 settled with surprising gentleness on the planet's surface. Sanctuary was a Class M planet. They had landed in the northern hemisphere in a temperate zone that would be pleasantly warm in the summers and occasionally snowy in the winters. Small teams utilizing the atmospheric shuttle called the Drake would explore in detail other climates, some of which were hostile, such as the desert area with its deadly sandstorms. Today, the landing was day one of year one. Kirk thought this new numbering of days and years was a bit silly, but the colonists liked it, so he said nothing. It was late spring, and when Kirk stepped out onto the sanctuary soil for the first time, the smells that teased his nostrils made him smile. For the first time since they'd left Earth, he felt excited and hopeful. Standing ready to greet them were 6 beings that Kirk assumed were Felorians. They did resemble the Huani, but they were different too, stockier, less animated in their movements. He smiled and automatically stepped forward, but Alex lay a gentle hand on his arm to stay him.
Julius has had the dealings with the Felorians, Uncle Jim. He should be the one to address them first. Sorry, Alex. Old habits die hard.
He stood next to Alex as the colonists, all 108 of them, exited the Mayflower 2. Julius was the last one out. The young man ran lightly down the steps and stretched out a hand to one of the Felorians.
Kaltor, listen. It's good to see you again.
Kirk assumed Kaltor was a title, but not a military one, much like chieftain or leader or head.
And you, Julius Kirk. We have long looked forward to this day.
Lison's eyes fell upon Kirk.
Forgive me, but do I detect a family resemblance with this person here as well?
You do, Kaltor. This is my uncle, Captain James T. Kirk.
Lison nodded.
Even out here on the edge of Federation space, we have heard of the famous Captain Kirk.
It's an honor to be here, Kaltor. I understand you are in negotiations to join the Federation. I wish you every success.
Lison seemed flattered.
We are eager to become a part of such a fine organization of worlds.
His eyes narrowed a little as he regarded Scully.
I see that you have brought a neighbor. What is your name, Huani child?
Scully bowed deeply.
I'm Scully Jixili, Kaltor. I look forward to getting to know you and your people better.
We will be visiting from time to time to discuss how things are progressing. Perhaps there will be a chance for us to converse then. In the meantime, Julius, you know how to contact us if you have problems.
He touched a bright button on his robe.
Please transport.
Despite the assurances of Kaltor Lison, the colonists did not see a great deal of the Felorians, and most of them seemed to like it that way. The first few days were filled with the practical necessities of simply getting the colony up and running. Most of the Mayflower 2's vast storage space had been devoted to materials that were now put to good use in constructing sound, stylish shelters. In keeping with Alex's sentiment that he wanted this colony to feel like a family, there was only one large building, In the center was a room that could accommodate all the colonists with ease. The entire left section of the compound was comprised of labs and testing areas. The right-hand side of living quarters. A staggering quantity of delicate, complex equipment was hauled out and set up in the testing areas. There was a new sense of camaraderie as the colonists worked together to build their new homes and workplaces. But once they had been erected, the colonists dove for their laboratories like gophers for their holes. Kirk had expected that Scully would be a complete nuisance, but she turned out to be only a moderate one. With her eidetic memory and the staggering rate at which she was able to absorb information, she quickly became rather popular among the sanctuarians, as the colonists had taken to calling themselves. She flitted easily from engineering to chemistry to medicine to geothermal mapping, and was clearly enjoying herself immensely. Even his old friends Scotty and Chekhov were less frequent companions than he had expected. He wasn't surprised that Scotty had been so taken with the bright and shiny new engineering technology. It was Chekhov's interest in and proficiency with scientific research that had surprised Kirk. He had clearly learned much as first officer aboard the Reliant. For the first few nights, once they had erected such things as private quarters, Kirk and his nephews had dined together. Alex had insisted that having the family together, what they could cobble together of it anyway, was important to him. But the reality was that with Kirk present, Alex would be upstaged if he didn't assert his authority often and clearly. As for raising their profile with Starfleet and the Federation in general, Kirk had already done all he could. Now, they were stuck out here on this rock, lovely though it was, and Kirk realized he wanted nothing more than to go back home. But Jim Kirk liked nothing better than a challenge, and so he determined that he would win over some of the people who seemed least likely to befriend him. His first target was Kate Gallagher. He had downloaded her bio from the computer and had to admit she was impressive. She was only 34 and had already won 7 major awards, including the coveted Peace Star for humanitarian achievement. She kept the lab door open all the time, but Kirk knocked gently on the wall nonetheless. Kate turned from the computer, saw who it was, and a look of irritation crossed her sharp features.
I've been reading your bio, Kate. I'm very impressed. Why didn't you tell us you had won the Peace Star?
I know crap like that matters to you Starfleet people, but I don't give a damn about it. Kirk refused to rise to the bait.
You give a damn about protecting innocent creatures. You were the only one who believed that V-rats were sentient. You saved an entire species from being relocated, which would have led to their extinction. I hear you're working on something quite remarkable. Something that could protect endangered species all across the galaxy.
Gallagher turned to look at him.
I call it the masker. There's so many animals that are being poached across the galaxy, it just makes me sick. Today's poacher finds his prey by scanning for its signs on a tricorder. What if we tagged animals so that their signal was masked? It wouldn't be that hard, just insert a small chip under the skin that sends out a signal that confuses a tricorder. Suddenly, they're invisible. Kate, I think it's a brilliant idea. Our Mr. Scott might be able to help you out a bit if you'd let him know you were interested.
She hesitated.
I'll think about it.
She turned back to the computer, and Kirk knew he'd been dismissed. Encouraged by his progress with Gallagher, Kirk then tried to warm up to some of the others, like the geologist Mark Vita. But Kirk couldn't share the man's enthusiasm for discussing the cave system that apparently riddled Sanctuary. Although at one point, when Vita asked if he was interested in spelunking, Kirk felt the first rush of pleasure he'd had since they left Earth. Kirk's help was apparently not welcome in graphing the weather patterns, something of vital import in a world that had sudden flooding and sandstorms that could come out of nowhere and scour bones clean in 5 minutes. It was not welcome in charting this world's stars. It was not welcome in biology or botany or geology or engineering. After the 3rd week, when most of his attempts to assist had been politely but obviously rebuffed, Kirk found himself lying on the small bunk in his cramped but at least private quarters. He stared at the ceiling, counting the days until the next resupply ship would arrive, and he could go home where he belonged. When the door chimed the next morning, Kirk blinked awake and glanced at the chronometer to see that he'd slept through breakfast. He reached for his robe.
Come in. Well, good morning, Mr. Chekhov.
Sorry to intrude, sir, but there is something I think you should see. I've been assisting Alice Harper in communications, downloading and sending messages to loved ones back home. Subspace traffic has dramatically increased over the last 4 days, and I'm not certain, but I believe, Captain, our communications are being monitored.
What makes you think that?
Chekhov shrugged, clearly troubled.
Nothing I can point to for certain. Little things. Echoes, blurry images, things like that.
Kirk leaned back, thinking.
For now, take it to no one. Document every glitch you encounter. If this keeps up, we'll tell Alex about it. It could be nothing more serious than the system needing to be fixed.
Aye, sir.
Aboard the atmospheric shuttle Drake, Scott was thoroughly enjoying himself. He, Alex, and Scully were going to traverse the entire planet and tune up the monitoring posts they had set in each of the sanctuary's ecosystems. There were 8 of them, 1 in each icy heart of the Arctic circles, 2 along the planet's equator, and 1 on each continent. Today, they were having problems with monitoring post AE-584-B2, stationed in the arid climate of one of the major continents. Alex was piloting, humming happily to himself as the little shuttle Drake flew over the brown-yellow sands. Scully was talking animatedly over the shuttle's comlink with Chekhov, who was back at Sanctuary Heart, which was what the colonists had named their base. Scott suddenly tuned into what Scully was saying.
Hello? Drake to Sanctuary Heart. Come in. Uh-oh.
She turned to look at Alex.
It sounds as though we lost him. Oh well. We're almost at the monitoring post anyway.
Alex was already beginning to descend. The landing area was the only flat rock in a sea of sand and jagged peaks. They gathered their tools, putting on their protective glasses and gloves. The sun's glare was almost unbearable, and the post would be far too hot to touch with bare hands. Alex did one last scan to make sure there were no sandstorms in the vicinity. When Scott opened the door, a blast of heat hit him with almost palpable force. He took a cautious breath of the hot air and jumped down onto the sand. At the communications console in Sanctuary Heart, Chekhov methodically began to check everything that could possibly be wrong on his end with the communications. He found nothing and asked a colonist to summon Kirk. When he arrived, Kirk listened attentively as Chekhov described the problem. Then Chekhov pointed to a screen.
The sandstorm is closing in on their area, and we can't even alert them to it.
Kirk looked at the monitor. A sandstorm on Sanctuary was a dangerous thing indeed. Nothing they were wearing would remotely protect them from the whipping winds if they were caught in the open. Kirk wished that they had a second shuttle. There would be no time to get the Mayflower 2 prepared to fly.
Keep trying to raise them, Mr. Chekhov. I'm going to find Julius.
He wasted time in searching for his youngest nephew because the communicators weren't working either. He finally found Julius in his quarters.
What is it, Uncle Jim?
Your brother and 2 other members of this colony are about to be bombarded with a violent sandstorm, and we can't reach them. Communications are completely offline.
After a 10-minute walk to the monitoring post, Scott proceeded to quickly clean the internal workings and then put it through a test run. It would take about 20 minutes. They leaned up against a rock formation and waited. Scully pointed to a flurry of motion in the distance. Alex nodded. That looks like a dust devil. He removed his communicator.
Alex to Sanctuary Heart. Hey, how come you didn't warn us about this sandstorm? Damn it. This communicator is dead too.
Scott stared at the dust devil that was rapidly becoming a sandstorm.
Alex, is there any place we could take shelter?
Because if there isn't, Scott thought grimly, then all a rescue party will find will be 3 scoured, bleached skeletons. Alex didn't reply. He was fiddling with the communicator. still trying to raise Sanctuary Heart. Scott reached out and shook Alex by the shoulder.
Lad, we've got to take shelter.
Alex looked up at him wildly, and Scott felt a twinge of sympathy, realizing this was his first real crisis.
Over here!
It was Scully. Scott hadn't even noticed her get up, but she'd clearly done so and found them protection against the storm. As Scott hauled Alex to where Scully stood, grit scoured his face, and the fine, powdery sand slipped past his lips and into his nostrils. They squeezed into a crevice after Scully and stumbled toward the back of the cave. Pressed together for warmth, but the cave was cold after the unforgiving heat outside, Scott felt Scully shiver.
It's scary. It sounds like a monster or something.
Scott squeezed her shoulder.
Good job, lass.
Alexander Kirk, who had coaxed over 100 people to pack up and move in pursuit of a dream, and who had completely panicked at the first sign of a real problem, said nothing.